However, most companies, they made these decisions long before AI ever entered the chat. AI just became the perfect corporate smoke machine, something to point the finger at, something to blame. The layoffs we're seeing, the push for efficiency, the push to do more with less, the burnout that seems to be plaguing most in the workplace now, the headlines that we read constantly, the fear mongering, the corporate spin of why all of this is coming to fruition. That is what we'll dissect today on the podcast. This is Catalyst by Salmons, and let's dig into it. The views, thoughts, and opinions on Catalyst by Salmons are those of the host, Robert Salmons, and guests, and are based on their lived experiences and personal perspectives. They do not represent the views, policies, or position of any current or former employers or affiliated organizations. Nothing shared on this podcast should be interpreted as legal advice. In today's episode of Catalyst by Salmons, we'll speak a little bit about the narrative shift with AI and the layoffs we're experiencing in the market. We'll talk about what's actually breaking at work. We'll also speak a little bit about the leadership gaps we're starting to see and identify as this narrative emerges. We'll also talk a little bit about what happens next. What can we see in the market? And we'll close out with my thoughts on where we are, where we should be, and how do we navigate there. But first, let's talk a little bit about this narrative. The shift has been very transparent to those of us plugged in, connected, paying attention to the messages we're hearing, the data we're seeing. It's clear that AI has become the cleanest explanation for decisions many companies have already made. Most organizations aren't implementing an AI strategy. They're implementing labor reductions and cost reductions with better branding, better marketing, a better scapegoat, AI. What we've seen today in the market is most organizations are cutting cost. Shareholders are the primary driver of this, looking for more and more profits from organizations that are already performing at record-breaking paces. However, corporate greed has also entered the chat with AI, a push to do more with less. We've seen this and heard this mantra ever since COVID. Organizations want employees to continue to do more, find ways to be more and more efficient, all while cutting resources, cutting training budgets, cutting where organizations need the support most right now. We are in an era of transformation. This is a time where companies need to invest in training and reskilling their associates so they can navigate this new world of AI, so they can learn how to augment their existing work with AI to drive the ultimate goals that many organizations want to see. However, that's not the path that most organizations are taking. Instead of investing in training and reskilling, most organizations are reducing those programs, cutting cost for training, for development, for resources, for backfills, and choosing to invest that money in AI, the technical stack. However, with all of the AI tools and technology that you can buy, without a clear strategy, without training your staff and team on how AI will be implemented within your organization. Again, back to your strategy as a company. There's no clear path to success. However, it hasn't stopped most corporations from pursuing this. AI at all cost. CEOs get up at all hand meetings or corporate town halls to say, we have to adopt AI. If we don't adopt AI, if you're not using AI, you're going to be left behind. the fear mongering that's creating so much tension, so much stress on an already burnt out workforce. However, what's lacking in these conversations, what's lacking in these articles that you're seeing them release, is a clearly defined AI strategy, is the thought process around how do we use AI to actually augment our workforce? How can we use AI to supplement the staff that we have to hit our goals, to drive that efficiency that we're trying to do? But what we are seeing, we're seeing massive layoffs over the last 2 years, both in 2025 and 2026, although it slowed some in early 2026. There were over 1.2 million layoffs in 2025, many of which were under the guise of efficiency and automation and pressure to implement AI. But those results are not there yet. It was all done under the premise that if we make the cuts, surely the remaining staff can figure out how to navigate this. But what that goes back to, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, doing more with less. That emerging trend since COVID to where companies are pressuring more and more for their employees to deliver as much as they possibly can, regardless of if that's in 8 hours, 10 hours, 12-hour days. That's creating the burnout dynamic that we're seeing across so many labor forces right now, especially in the corporate sector, especially in the technical sector, where many of those roles have been impacted by the supposed AI caused layoffs. It's important for us to remember most jobs are changing, but they are not disappearing because of AI. AI adoption means augmentation first. How do we augment the job that we are already doing today with AI? Can we drive our output by simply plugging in and using a different type of AI tool, a different way of working? And lastly, for employers and leaders out there, it's important to remember that workers associate AI with distrust because of your behavior, because of what they're seeing in the media, what they're seeing from press releases from organizations, what they're seeing from leaders in those all hands or all company meetings and CEOs. It's also what they're seeing in their one on ones with you in their conversations. That is what created the distrust that you're seeing now. It's not the technology, it's your messaging around it. Let's spend a moment talking about what's actually breaking at work. This continues the trend we've talked about in the previous podcast as well. The deeper issue isn't automation or AI, it's organizational decay, the loss of culture, the movement from that people first approach that we spoke of in the last episode to the profit first, shareholder first approach that we've seen emerge in the last 12 to 18 months. We're starting to see more and more burnout. And what's causing this burnout is employees no longer understand the why behind the what. They're looking for purpose in the work they're doing. However, there's just constant pressure to perform without the pause to explain why it matters to perform. What is the value of this thing I'm asking you to do? How do you deliver this individual unit metric task in a way that helps us drive the outcome, the purpose? Those purpose statements are so important in leadership when you're looking for buy-in and trust. And it's something that stopped. It's something that devolved when we started doing more with less, when the pressure increased to drive output, drive. And with that drive, we've lost time and patience to explain the whys and the purpose behind the work that we need to actually do. This is causing not only burnout, but it's causing individuals to feel misaligned. At the end of the day, most humans want to do something that has a purpose. And they want that purpose to be more than just helping make corporate profit. helping make the shareholders happy. They want to understand what it does for them. What's in it for them? What's in it for maybe the environment, maybe the culture, maybe some passion interests that they have as well. And again, without that why and that purpose, they're not able to make that connection. And that's causing a record number of associates and employees to be burnout, to be disengaged, to be misaligned with the actual work that they're doing and with the corporate missions in many instances. And all of this culminates in a way that causes individuals to become emotionally exhausted. Even when they're not working those 10 and 12-hour days, that 8-hour day feels like a 16-hour day because it's so emotionally taxing doing something that maybe is monotonous or maybe something that may not be the most exciting and you don't understand the why. So you're just sitting there kind of drudging through the mud to get it done. And even on a good day, when you work maybe 7 hours instead of 8, you're still exhausted at the end of the day emotionally. It's important to remember as well, people can tolerate hard work. They know what they signed up for. What they can't tolerate is meaningless, busy work without purpose. The future of work won't be decided by AI tools and efficiencies and pressure to do more with less. What it will be decided on is if leaders can rebuild the trust from their associates, from their employees, before the employees completely check out and disconnect. We're at a pivotal moment now to where leaders need to pause and understand, without building that trust back that has eroded in the last couple of years, they soon won't have a team to support any goal, let alone record-breaking profits that most organizations are seeing right now. Organizations are technically ambitious and emotionally unprepared. Most leaders aren't taking the time to actually understand what it means when they talk about AI in front of their staff, in front of their teams, or their full companies. I've seen CEOs get up and speak about the importance of AI and how we need to utilize AI. And then they give an example of simple automation that's been around for decades. In order for leaders to actually lead during this transformative time that we're in, they need to understand what they're saying. They need to speak with sincerity and transparency. And when they don't know, they need to say they don't know. That's a key element of leadership. It's a key element of who we've become as a society, as transparency is pivotal in order for us to have trust. As a leader, you have to have your team's trust or they will follow you nowhere. What we see today is poor communication from leaders. Leaders who are out there just reading a script or talking about sound bites they heard somewhere and just constantly repeating and repeating, but not understanding. There's no reskilling strategy or training strategy for most organizations to speak about how do we adapt as an organization? How do we take the staff that we have today and reskill them and prepare them for the future? Instead, what we're getting is this fear-mongering from leaders to speak about, you have to learn AI or you're going to become obsolete. You won't have a space in the workplace. However, no one's out there creating a roadmap for their teams about what does it look like or what does it mean to reskill and to reshape yourself in the era of AI and how to prepare yourself to successfully navigate that. And in most instances, that's because the leaders themselves don't know and haven't invested in themselves, or the company has not invested in them enough to help prepare them for this transition either. What we're experiencing right now is change without humanity. It's the forced change, the constant pressure to change. We all speak about the change management curve, and as a leader, it's important to understand, right? Folks are going to go through that change management curve. But in this AI era, we're not letting people go through that. We're simply just shoving them, hoping they'll come through the end immediately. No patience, no understanding for what happens in between. And often those people that are not quickly adapting, who are not self-motivated to actually get out there and figure out what it means for themselves, are the ones that are getting impacted by these layoffs because leaders have become too lazy to invest in an associate, even if they're tenured, to help navigate them through this AI era, because the world's moving too fast now for us to slow down and understand. But without strategy, you will fail. We're also experiencing more and more performative leadership, not just in the space of AI, but we'll keep this to AI. That's again those leaders getting out there and just speaking about the sound bites, speaking about AI without understanding what it is, confusing automation with AI, not understanding even the various types of automation that's been in market for decades. This is what happens when you have a huge transformation in a technical space impacting roles and organizations who may not be that technical. You're forcing leaders and organizations to get into a technical space with AI that they're uncomfortable with. Think of a lawyer in the legal space, the regulatory space, things that haven't been as tech forward, haven't been as impacted by some of the last couple of decades of automation and workflows and the efficiency drives. Now they are. The push is across all segments, all markets. It's important for leaders to understand your employees know when your language is fake. They can tell when you're performing. They also think and believe innovation means layoffs now. We're getting back to that trust and how it's eroded. When they hear a push for innovation, they immediately have that feeling in their gut, layoffs are coming. The work's not going anywhere, but layoffs are coming because we've become more inventive or more efficient. But under this all, it's not just the employees that are panicking. It's the leaders, the middle management, especially those leaders in middle management that have been further and further removed from the day-to-day, further and further removed from technical spaces. They don't know what the future holds. And without clear direction from an executive team or a clear strategy, the blind is leading the blind. If AI is really the future, why are so many organizations, so many executives communicating it like it's a threat? It should be communicated as an opportunity, not a threat. I'll close this segment with, again, some leadership themes that I want my leaders that are listening to hang on to. During this period, we need to speak about the transferable skills of adaptability. We need to lead with empathy. We also need to lead with clarity. We need to be clear on what our expectations are. How can you use AI in your day-to-day? Work on those use cases. And if you don't know, work with your team. Make it a brainstorming session, a workshop. You can come up with them together. That's where strategy comes from. If it doesn't come from the top, then build it organically within your individual organization, and you'll become the benchmark for how to navigate this era of AI. In addition to those things, which are all key blocks, figure out how to rebuild trust within your team. It's going to become paramount as more and more we're going to see the headlines and the layoffs and the speak about AI and the impacts to the market. You need your team's trust to navigate this. and they want to trust you. They just haven't had a reason to yet. So with all of this said, what happens next? Where do we go from here? Where do employees go? Where do leaders go? Where do we go as society with this impact on the day-to-day work that we do and how we pay our bills and how we continue to survive? A few things are clear. AI will change how we work. Some jobs may disappear. Almost all jobs will change and evolve. But one thing that not as many folks are talking about, a lot of new roles will emerge. We're seeing roles emerge in the AI ethical space, ethical engineering, ethical code, ethical implementation of AI. This is a new realm, so it's created a new segment within work as well. It's important for us to look at those and to understand what our future means. Do we want to be adaptable to live within our existing realms, our existing roles, with an AI lens? Or is it time for a change? Do you want to consider one of these new AI spaces and roles that are emerging in the market? And is that the play for you? It certainly would make sense from a short-term monetary gain perspective, as you're seeing high salaries in those roles. They're brand new. Folks are reskilling to get into those roles. Training and certification programs are just now emerging for them. So over the next 2 to 5 years, maybe 1 to 5 years, that's where the money's going to be. That's where the big, quick wins are going to be. If you're not looking for a quick win and you're more for the long haul, then look at adapting. If you're not a leader, pressure your leaders to come up with a clear strategy on what AI means for your role, for your team. If you are a leader, work both up and with your team to understand what AI strategy can mean for you and your team. Those are some of the key things that will need to happen next, that are coming in the what's next, rather, for us to continue to focus on. Some of the future winners that we'll see in this is individuals who can help translate. Again, speaking about that AI strategy, how do I look at a role and identify the AI strategy for this role, or broader, for an organization, for a team? Translators. It's going to be a huge role to consider in the coming years. Individuals who are using AI in a daily space, finding new and innovative ways, operators. It's another place for individuals to emerge. AI also does something that we haven't been as focused on. It allows for strategic thought. It gives individuals who are strategically focused an opportunity to step back, again, thinking about AI implementation, AI strategy, AI ethics. Those are clear areas that are going to be emerging in the coming months and years. The last two, I think, are really important for individuals who are looking for leadership. First, relationship builders. We're in a time now to where trust is at an all-time low. All the studies show that trust has devolved and eroded more than it has in a very, very long time. We need relationship builders who can actually help rebuild that trust, who can find ways to bridge the gaps between employees and employers and leaders and executives. Which leads me to the last one, human-centric leadership. We need that more than ever now. Folks are vulnerable. Trust is gone. The leaders who will successfully lead now have to be human-centric. I understand the pressures from the C-suite. I understand the pressure from the shareholders, the board, to drive profit. The only true sustainable way to drive profit is to have a strong team behind you. No single individual at a large scale or even small to medium scale organization can do it single-handedly. An individual CEO is not driving profit. It's the team. And the way to get a team motivated, bought in, and wanting to follow is through trust. It's through human-centric leadership. That's a skill that cannot be undersold. It is going to be incredibly important in the coming years that individual leaders or those that aspire to be leaders become more and more human-centric if they want to be successful in those roles. The safest employee in the AI era won't be the employee who resists. It'll be the employee who learns to adapt, who learns how to lead through it, who learns how to build those relationships with their peers, their leaders, their shareholders, their boards. Those are the folks that are going to be successful in the coming years. For my closing thoughts on this, AI has brought exposure to a couple of things. It's exposed weak leadership, performative leadership. It's exposed hollow cultures, performative values and leaders, as well as organizations that were merely built for optics, and organizations broader than just the full company, down to the individual team. However, it's gave us an opportunity for a few items for improvement. It's created a space for us to become smarter leaders, a chance to correct course and start becoming human-centric leaders again, a chance for us to work at rebuilding trust and building relationships across our teams. People aren't afraid of AI. They're afraid of leadership right now. And that's at the root of what we've got to address. Look, I'm not here to speak to or to defend the societal, the environmental, the cultural impacts of AI. All of those things are real, and all of those things warrant a conversation. Today's podcast was just about how we navigate AI in the workplace and making sure folks understand AI is not the blame for the layoffs right now or the pressure to do more with less. That's leadership. That's shareholders driving those decisions, not AI. AI didn't create the fracture. It exposed it. The companies that survive this era won't just be the most automated. They'll be the most trusted. Stay sharp, stay human, and let's get moving. I'm Robert Salmons, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, like and share this video, and tell me your thoughts. Have a great day.